Hello, I'm here to talk about my internship for child development. My name is Heather Head, and I worked at the Oceanside Public Library to do my interning. I worked primarily at the Civic Center Library, which is the main branch and shown in the picture, but I also did some interning at Mission Branch and John Land as well. Primarily, I worked with 6 to 9-year-olds, but throughout the summer, I also worked with tweens, teens, and preschoolers occasionally. But most of my work was with first to fourth graders in the STEAM camps, which I'll talk about in a second. My goals were to practice teaching and facilitating lessons and activities for a group of children. And I also wanted to design those activities to help enrich their summer. My third goal was to work well with other professionals and successfully carry out all the summer programming with a large group of people. And lastly, I really wanted to learn the back end of library sciences and learn how to organize and do administrative tasks for all the children's learning programs. Like I said, STEAM camps were my primary job for my internship. I worked 80 hours on them, and it was a period of 4 weeks of camps and then a couple weeks of prep beforehand. So every year, the Oceanside Library puts on a month of STEAM camps, and each week has a different theme. I did a robotics camp, a Pokemon camp, a space camp, and a sports lab camp. That's what I helped run. So I had to develop all the sign in and sign out sheets and materials like name tags and a themed book cart. That's what you see in the picture right here. I pulled stuff from our catalog after researching books for each theme and got them ready for each week. I also had to develop supplemental activities for each week's theme, which I'll show you in my pictures in a second. And then I had to obviously set up and tear down the rooms weekly and make sure that I was there to help facilitate the vendors when they had the lessons for the children to do. I helped make sure the kids got those lessons done and helped them with any issues they had with projects. I answered questions from all the librarians who worked with me because they varied from day to day and week to week. And I was the primary point person for that. So I made sure to have answers if they had questions. I created a Google form survey that we sent out to caregivers at the end of each week with pictures from the week. That way we got some feedback on how our camps went. And then lastly, I helped assist in behavior management when there was any behaviors that the children had. Before I go on, I'd like to say I have permission for all the pictures of the children via the library's policies and signed forms from the parents. So here's some pictures of our STEAM camps. First was robotics. I designed a spinner activity to help kids learn about potential and kinetic energy. And the children built robots and they raced them in obstacle courses and just had a really fun time. Second week was Pokemon camp, and they battled Pokemon, made different evolutions of them. They made a gym for their Pokemon and arenas for their Pokemon, and then they raced cars with Pokemon on them. The third week was space camp, and I designed an activity to make constellations out of pipe cleaners and star beads, and then we labeled them and put them up on a wall. That was really fun. The children also made moon base camps and painted solar systems with puffy paint. They designed Mars rovers and raced them down ramps, and then they had moonwalkers that launched in the air. And then our last week was sports lab camp. The children made skate parks and mini golf tournaments, and then basketball courts and soccer courts, and just had a really fun time being really creative. And I had a space in the corner where we did crafts like scratch art, bookmarks, and paper footballs, and that kind of thing. Like I said, I wanted to learn about the behind the scenes duties that a children's librarian would have. And so I did a lot of back end things like shelving books for our outreach and prize bags and compact storage, which I call the back stacks. And I cleaned toys from our early learning hub and from toy checkouts, which are like book checkouts, but parents can check out toys for their children for 3 weeks at a time. I organized box books for a librarian to catalog, and then I wanted to design crafts for my goals. So I designed crafts and made instructions and signs for events on Canva as part of my behind the scenes duties. This is a candy cane and snowflake ornament craft that's going to be in the winter prize bag that I designed. I worked at the Filipino American Festival. I created a SEPA ball project and the signage for that, and then manned the table while the children made the craft, and they loved it. It was really fun. I also helped out in book clubs for tweens and teens. The tweens were really successful. We talked about the Lumberjanes graphic novel, and I made up discussion questions, which they answered, and we had a good talk about. And then we made duct tape keychain crafts afterward that they got to take home. The teen book club, I read the book, but nobody showed up. So I sat around with the librarian for a while. I'm hoping that August is well attended, which is this Friday. But it's going to be the last one because of low attendance and interest right now. I also got to march in our Oceanside Independence Parade and make sure all the kids stayed in our section. I passed out flags and snacks and props and just hyped up the children as we walked along and waved and smiled. It was really fun. There was always summer prize bags to assemble while I was there. That's something the children get for reading 10 books or 10 hours with their grown up. The bags had food and museum coupons and bookmarks, stickers, a pencil, 3 craft kits like the one I designed for winter, but the summer version, and then a book. And they all went into a backpack. This year, we gave out over 1,600, which is twice as many as we did in 2025. So that kept me and all the teen interns very busy whenever we had a free moment. It was really fun to be a part of the Stuffy Sleepover story time at the John Land's location. The children came for a camping themed story time and then left their stuffies with us overnight after making them a lanyard with their name. And then when the kids left for the day, we snuck around and we had their stuffies do a lot of different fun things around the library. So they read a spooky story, they played games, they went outside in the garden and hid in the toys, jumped on trampolines, played volleyball, dressed up in fun outfits. And then the kids came back the next day and got to see what they were up to in a slideshow that of these pictures we took and color a frame with a picture of their stuffy. Last thing I did, which I was really passionate about, is an intergenerational activity, which is when young and old people come together to form relationships while doing something. I designed a community story garden with prompts related to books, and every attendee that came to our end of summer reading program had the opportunity to add their answers to those prompts to our story garden wall. And it was pretty well attended. We had a lot of children and adults make some answers and put them on our wall, and they were enjoying each other's responses and laughing. So it seemed pretty well attended. Overall, this was the dream intern experience for me. I have always wanted to work in a library, so this was the perfect match. I learned how to help children with their challenges and projects for the STEAM camps and how to help them with problem solving skills and problem solving skills for myself as we went through different events. I learned to be flexible for in the moment adjustments. Like our tide pool talk had 130 people and we thought it was going to have 40. So we had to, at the last minute, switch up some stuff. I learned all the behind the scenes workload that's necessary to be a librarian and do that job, and all the roles and hats that a librarian has to wear. They're, answering phones, finding books, they're running book clubs, designing camps, they're doing outreach, they're serving lunch, so many things. They do it all with a smile. It's fantastic. I learned a lot about the staff and group relationship dynamics at a large location like this, and all the staff at the library were fantastic and kind to me, and I loved them all. And lastly, I learned how to facilitate a large summer program. The STEAM camps were a month long plus a couple of weeks of prep, and it was hard and challenging and rewarding. My reflections and next steps, I learned about a new career path as an hourly children's librarian from this internship. I thought I had to have my master's to work in a library, but I found out I can work 19 hours a week with my bachelor's. So that's my new career goal when I finish my bachelor's in December. I came away with a renewed passion and excitement for my future. Before this, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my degree. I just wanted to finish it. And now I have the goal of continuing my career path, trying to become a librarian full time, hopefully. I never thought I would get a master's, but now I'm even contemplating that. So that's great. And at my debrief for STEAM camps, my site supervisor told me that if I ever wanted a job, she would love to hire me. And so that made me feel really good and like I made a difference. So that's it. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.